On the Wire, in association with Ladbrokes.
Well, the jumps is gone, but the flat is back. It's On the Wire in association with Ladbrokes, and we've a special show today. We've just gotten declarations in for Sunday's 1,000 guineas. We've an unbelievably competitive 2,000 guineas with so many of the Newmarket protagonists coming over. We're going to hear an exclusive interview with Sean Leavy about his two big rides on Saturday, and we'll also hear from Paddy Twomey. It's all coming up on the Wire. Yeah, we're delighted to be back. As ever, it's Donn McLean from the Racing TV stable, Mark Boylan from the Irish Field stable, and Nicola McGeady from our sponsors, Ladbrokes. We have an offer to talk about, Nicola, and we have a cracking weekend. I was a little bit worried talking to Aidan O'Brien during the week about what he might declare with the rain that they were having in Tipperary, but the Curragh has more or less avoided it, and yeah, we have a cracker.
Yeah, can't wait for it, actually. Really kind of now, I'm a jumps person through and through, but now that it's been put to bed, I can really get on board with this weekend. And yeah, we've got a great offer, as you mentioned. Aidan O'Brien horse to win the 2,000 guineas is now 2-1 from 6-4. So a nice little boost for anyone who fancies one of the O'Brien horses. He's got 3 in the race, including River, Tibber, Unquestionable, and Mountain Bear.
That's actually a cracking. When I got into betting, I could never beat Ladbrokes. I remember they always used to take on horse on a Saturday, and I couldn't beat them. But anyway, let's introduce Mark Boylan. Mark, surely you have a better way to introduce yourself than Nicola's. I'm a massive fan of the jumps on this podcast.
It's absolute slanderous stuff to start off a Guineas weekend preview. I actually really like the flat season. I'm not an anti-jumps by any means, but just fine punting wise and previewing for ourselves in the paper. I do probably have a little bit more success in the flat than jumps, but no, look at it this weekend. I really like the quality we've got. I like the way it's spread out too. Obviously this evening we got good quality Premier Handicap. We've got good group races through the weekend, and as you mentioned, there's 11 British runners over the next two Saturday, Sunday, and I think that really adds depth to the race. If you go through them and you take them out, I think we're looking at very, very different contests. So very welcome to see them come over here, and I'm sure it'll be a team through the year at the Curragh.
Controversial view or not, Don, I would argue Irish racing is very much inferior to English racing at the moment when it comes to the flat. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I wouldn't really agree with that, Johnny. No. Yeah, I guess like Nicola, I'm a kind of a jumps fan in November, and then I do morph into a flat fan come May. But it's this kind of this part of the season. It's the early part of the season that gets me excited anyway, definitely for jumps, but for flat this time when the early throws have happened and you have form lines starting to bed in for the season ahead. And Irish Guineas weekend. For me, it's a good line in the season. We're really into it now, as you said, Johnny. We're up and running. No more jumps. All the championships are put to bed, and Guineas is over. The English Guineas is over, into the Irish Guineas, and on to the Derby. So yeah, no, it's I think it's an exciting time of year.
Probably slightly exaggerated the point there, but I would say with Dubawi and Frankel based over there, just that the British racing has access to kind of the Premier Stallions. Blue Point, on the other hand, who's based in Ireland, could have a massive say this weekend, and we'll talk about the Guineas shortly. But let's get straight into it, and we'll go to you first, Nicola, actually, on this. And this is the first race we're going to look at, is the Gain Marble Hill Stakes. This race is in honour of Teresa Mernan this year, which is really lovely to see, and her loss massively felt in the Mernan household, and obviously beyond. The race itself, Nicola, we've a very, very promising type here in Camille Pizarro and Arizona Blaze as well. You'd imagine the two of them might kind of dominate the betting.
Yeah, I think Camille Pizarro, having spoken to the traders this morning, will be the odds-on favourite. He's already been well backed for the Coventry Stakes at Royal Ascot this week. Now 3-1 favourite from 5-1. He's a half-brother to Clive Cox's Golden Horde, who of course won the 2020 Commonwealth Cup at Royal Ascot before finishing third in the July Cup. And he's bred to be quick, and he won well in his debut. So that is the horse that we'll have as the clear favourite, I think.
He looks a fine stamp for horse, Don.
He does, yeah. No, he did it well. And Arizona Blaze, you said, was good in winning his maiden and ran well then when second to Whistle Jacket last time. I thought Midnight Strike was interesting. This is Arizona Blaze, I think, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the Adrian Murray team, Amber Racing team, they're flying, and they've had a phenomenal start to the season. Arizona Blaze, he won the first race, the first juveniles race of the season, and staying on really well here to get up and win by about a length in the end, and the front two pulled nicely clear. But Midnight Strike, I just like the way he did it the last day at the Curragh on his debut. He was a wee bit in behind. He had to make his ground over on the far side, and he stayed on well to get the better of Treasure Isle. And Treasure Isle went and won at an ace there the other day, so enhanced that form. And I think Joseph O'Brien was saying beforehand that Midnight Strike, he was kind of a wee bit concerned about 5 furlongs, that might not be the thing for him, and he's bred for further. His dam's a half sister to Fox Power, who won a listed race over a mile. So I think the step up and trip to 6 furlongs will suit. And look, we're dealing with limited evidence here, and obviously the ground's going to be key for the whole weekend, Johnny. Like it's looking like it's kind of
absolutely
good firm in places, and I'm not sure that there's much rain around. I think Sean Leavy was saying to you that they're watering. So if that's the case, but I think we can probably assume good, or maybe even a wee bit quicker than good for the weekend for now. And look, that's an unknown for a lot of these. The early throws of the season has been on ground that's been much softer than we're going to encounter now. All going well for the summer ahead. But I just like the way Midnight Strike did it the last time, and I just thought that Joseph thought that he might come on again for that, and I think he might improve for a step up and trip as well.
We've just, Johnny, gone up with it actually, and Camille Pizarro's 10-11 Midnight Strike 5-2.
Yeah, that's interesting. Midnight Strike, obviously well regarded then by Ladbrokes, and to be fair, Mark, this race has plenty of depth. Unexpected issues I see has a new owner since she won. I was at Navan the day she won. Well touted. She's likely bound for the Queen Mary. The Parthenon is a horse by Kingman out of Wonder and Wonders. It's just a pretty beautiful pedigree, it has to be said. What do you make of it?
It's interesting. I think Camille Pizarro is no bigger than 130 anywhere for the Coventry, but he's 10-11 to win this, so it'll tell you that it will be a decent trial, it will be a decent contest. I really like the way he did it in Navan first time, and I think the profile of Aiden's 2-year-olds, we've even seen a horse like Treasure Isle improve considerably from run 1 to run 2 this season, and I can see that with this guy, bred to be very smart. Obviously the half brother to Golden Horde won a Commonwealth Cup. I think the case for him is pretty obvious. For all that I would mention, we were in Joseph O'Brien's on Monday morning for a press morning, and he did kind of identify that this season he feels as though he's bought a more precocious type of 2-year-old than other seasons. And I think that's reflective in how they've started as well. I think he's had 11 2-year-old runners. I think he's had 3 winners, and maybe 6 or 7 of them have been in the placements as well. I think he's only had 1 or 2 that have been out of the 3. So they have started very brightly. They seem a decent crop. I think Coward of the County that won a maiden on the same day, he goes straight to Royal Ascot for the Coventry. They're a good bunch, and I wouldn't disregard them, but I just feel Camille Pizarro wouldn't shock me if he's a big player when it comes to the time of a Coventry. Back
to you, Nicola, for the Weatherby's Ireland Greenland Stakes. This is a Group 2 contest for 2:30. I think we'll all be in agreement that British sprinters are definitely superior to Irish. Interesting, a regional comes over. Regional had an option at home this weekend, 6-1 with Ladbrokes, I see. I was actually very interested in the stable debutant for Paddy Twomey, Euros and Psycho. I thought was put in at a big enough price, but there's only one place to start here, I think, Nicola. That's got to be Art Power, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing I'd say, it looks really competitive. Obviously, last year's winner, Art Power, is the one they all have to beat, 7-2 favourite. But it's a really strong heat. 3 under Group 1 penalties, including Art Power, who was, an easy winner last year. Mark, I read your piece, I think, in the Irish Field with Ken Condon, and he seems very sweet on Moss Tucker, who sits third in the betting at 11-2, and he is one of the 3 Group 1 winners in the pack after winning the Flying 5. I think one at a better price is the William Haggis filly, who needs to improve, but she's certainly one we are keeping on side. That's Unequal Love, who's in there at 12-1. She ran a career best at Newmarket earlier this month over this trip, and obviously she takes on another level of horses here, but I would fancy her to be in the shake-up.
Yeah, we saw the race last year there, Mark, where King Condon's horse actually disappointed, but Moss Tucker's not going to perform like that, I would imagine, tomorrow.
Well, this is it. Like, amazing horse, really. You think he started out 0-for-5 in maidens over a mile and a quarter. I think really, really incredible how he's improved to get so much quicker with age. And I thought this was a really encouraging comeback. Now, I do agree completely what you said, Johnny, in terms of the British dynamic here. The British sprinters are, I always believe, whether it be sprint handicaps or this type of group race, they are ahead of us. But this guy is getting better with age. I think, he ended last season like in the best form we've ever seen him. He started the season probably better we've ever seen it. I do think another level is required for this here. And I think regional is probably a little bit underestimated in the market. hasn't been seen for a while. Did win on comeback last year, though, admittedly at a lower level. But I just felt he could have been shorter here. I get it that Art Power, this is his playground, this is where he loves to come, but I'm just not convinced that at 7, maybe. I think he'd had a lot of mileage. Wasn't a bad run last time at York by any means, but whether he's guaranteed to be absolutely at his best this season just remains to be seen for me. And just want to mention there, I did a feature last week in the paper with Andy Slattery. Really loves this filly Easy. Now, I'm a little bit concerned maybe ground-wise. The best of her price seemed a little ease. She hasn't been the easiest to train, but if you're looking for a trainer with confidence and, complete belief in a horse, Andy and Easy, he thinks she's really, really special. Says nothing can go with her at home. She's 16-1. I'd like easier ground for her, but I wish him the very best of luck with her. I think she's a lovely filly for the season. Could be one for the Flying 5 in the autumn if we get an ease in the ground then. Yeah,
Andy's always great value. We'll have a look at Should Have Been a Ring winning here, and we will hear from Sean Leavy shortly as well. But Should Have Been a Ring, Don, brings very, very solid form to the table. Second here, and Sean, we will hear from Sean, but I think he's quite sweet in this horse, Don.
Yeah, it was a big run, but Should Have Been a Ring. The front four went to the line together. Washington Heights, who led from early, looked like he was going to be placed and actually got run out of the places in the end. Millstream just getting better. Should Have Been a Ring over on the far side. Jane Chapel-Hyam's horse, but it was a good performance. Like, Should Have Been a Ring, but he's beaten literally a nostril. That was a massive run. And he finished second behind Regional in the Sprint Cup at Haydock back in September last year as well. So he's just a really solid sprinter. And yeah, look, I agree with the lads on Moss Tucker. Like what he did at Naas on his debut this season, I think he was expected to come on for that, and I'm sure he will. And he had a hell of a season last season. Ken Conlon did a phenomenal job with him. And he's a horse who will probably progress as the season goes on. I'd just be a wee bit concerned if the ground is too quick for him. He's a better horse, maybe just on the easy side of good, or even a wee bit softer than that. And if there's any good to firm in the ground description, I'd be a bit worried about Moss Tucker. Art Power, like, he's phenomenal when he comes over here. He's just his defeat last time at the Curragh in the Flying 5. That was his first defeat at the Curragh, I think, in 6 runs. I think he was 5 for 5 before that. And in that race that we just saw, he wasn't far behind them. He finished 5th in the end. There was a wee gap between the first 4 and him, but he was up handy from early, and then I thought he kept on well. It looked like he was going to drop right back, but he kept on well, and that was, he was out abroad before that, but that was his first run in Britain this season. So you can see him going on from that. But I thought he'd be bigger than he is. I didn't think he'd be put in as favourite, and I think Regional has a massive chance here. Like, he was so progressive last season, and he went to the Haydock Sprint Cup. He was a wee bit of an outsider, but he battled on really well to win that day. And as Mark said, he won on his debut last season. He won on his debut in 2021 as well. So he does go well fresh. And as you said, Johnny, he had options closer to home this weekend at Haydock on Saturday. And he loves Haydock. So it's a big move by Ed Bethel to bring him over. Ed Bethel, just had a look up this morning, he's only had one runner in Ireland before. That was in the Goffs Million a couple of years ago. So it's a massive move for him to bring him over. And Regional, I think he was his first Group 1 winner. And he was Callum Rodriguez's first Group 1 winner when he won the Haydock race. So I just think I love the way he progressed last season. He loved the fast ground, and yeah, I think he's a big player. I thought he would have been a fair bit shorter than he is now.
Yeah, Don mentions that he could have had options. I think he was in the Temple Stakes, the Group 2, and keep an eye out on the channel tomorrow for Haydock, because we see Van Dijk returning as well. What a sprinter he could be as a 3-year-old. Sean Leavy, though, is back home in many respects. He wasn't born in Ireland, but he's pretty much a glorified Irishman, or certainly was his days in Ballydoyle. And here he is talking about his runner in this race.
At the start of the year, he would have every chance of improving again this year. He left us scratching our head on his second run when he went to Newmarket, which was a race he had won before. And for whatever reason, he didn't put his best foot forward, I thought. But it was nice to see him in York show that he hadn't lost that form. He ran very genuinely to the line. He battled hard in what was a competitive race. And, if he brings that to the Curragh, he'd be definitely competitive in it.
What's it like riding a horse like that in a sprint that basically is more likely to come from last to first?
I mean, it's straightforward. It's not necessarily that I put him last, so I don't really put him where I don't put him in the positions he finds himself in. Over the years, he's learned himself the manner in which he likes to run. He tends to be off the bridle early doors, and in a lot of his races, he tends to be the first horse off the bridle. But he shows great grit and determination, I suppose, that he comes good at the 2 furlong marker, and he works real hard to the line for you. And as a result, he throws in really good races in throws in really good results in big races. So he's always a horse you keep on side.
Yeah, he is one to keep on side. But what about Sean's Mount in the Guineas? This is the big race on Saturday. We're going to have a look here at the Newmarket edition. So the horse that Sean is going to ride, and we will hear from Sean shortly on this, is Rosallion. Rosallion is bidding, off the top of my head, to provide Blue Point. Godolphin's horse standing in Kildangan with his first classic winner. He's going to be a very, very good stallion by the looks of it. This horse has so much class, Mark. And, you know, we will hear from Sean. I suppose there was a slight stamina doubt based on his pedigree coming into the Guineas here, but he did all bar win, really.
Oh yeah, I think it was very hard to knock the effort. The winner, Notable Speech, has stepped up on his form considerably on the day, and he always looked a promising horse at lesser levels. But so it was very little you could kind of knock. I felt Rosallion here, other than the fact he didn't win, just bumped into a good horse. And I think with the fact Notable Speech isn't here today, on Saturday, it's an obvious plus for Rosallion staying. But I'm not sure overall we were heading into a vintage Guineas, but he was a good second. And we've seen horses like Kingman, Native Trail finish second in the Guineas in Newmarket, trained in Britain, come back here and win the Guineas. On ratings, he's I think at least 3 or 4 pounds clear of everything in the race. Group 1 win form at 2 as well in the Lagardère. Ground wise, he has been effective on Little Ease, but I do think decent ground is absolutely no concern to him at all. I'll be very, very happy to see the best of him nearly in conditions like we have this weekend. And even his main rivals, River Tiber has the stamina to prove, on paper very much an unknown as to whether he'll get it. And he's yet to go beyond 6. I suppose you're taking confidence if you're in that camp that Ryan Moore has sided with him over Unquestionable, who has already won at a mile at a Breeders' Cup previously, albeit maybe a mile around there is not quite as much of a mile test as it will be at the Curragh here. But to me, I don't mean to be obvious about it, but I just think Rosallion, he's very, very hard to beat. And it might even be a 1-2 for Richard Hannon potentially. I think Hatem, he looks to have been an improved performer at 3. He's caught me by surprise because I didn't quite expect it to be of this level. I thought he might have plateaued slightly towards the end of his 2-year-old career, but he really has raised the stakes, and I thought it was a good effort as well in the Guineas last time. And it wouldn't shock me if it was a 1-2 for Richard Hannon camp. Richard been for his first Group 1 in Ireland, and Sean Leavy the very same. He's never had one in Ireland, but his first Group 1 ride came on this weekend back in 2006. I think he was still a £10 claimer. He rode one for Ballydoyle in the Guineas, so it'd be nice bit of symmetry if he could come back this weekend and get a first Irish Group 1.
You've done your homework there 18 years ago. We will look at the Ballydoyle runner here. You might talk us over this, Don. I really can't decide whether this horse is going to stay or not. There's mixed messages from the pedigree. The sire side would give him every chance, not so much the dam side. What about his racing style?
Yeah, I'm kind of this is Unquestionable or River Tiber. River Tiber. Yeah, I'm pedigree or stamina wise, I'm definitely in the doubtful camp. Like, he's never been beyond 6, as Mark said. Like he was entered in the Breeders' Cup race over a mile of juvenile turf, but didn't run, obviously. And this is the Middle Park, which is a good run. You've got Van Dijk first and clear there in the yellow and black. Simon Ed Christopher's horse, and River Tiber. He keeps on well towards the near side, and Task Force, who comes down the near side and gets the better of him for the runner-up spot. He just ran okay in the Guineas, didn't he? He didn't. I know. River, like, his pedigree is his dam is related to sprinters, from the family of Suderman as well, sprinter, and he's never been beyond 6. Like, Middle Park horses that just, it's hard to see them stepping up and to a mile for the Guineas. It's a seasonal debut as well, so it's be a wee bit worried about him getting a mile. And for Unquestionable, I think Aiden was saying during the week that it was a bit of a rush to get him there, wasn't it? Like, he was only a length behind Rosallion in the Jean-Luc there last season at Longchamp. But I thought Rosallion, even though he won the race, he could have been marked up on the bare phone, but he was drawn wide. He had to go a wee bit wider than ideal around the bend, and he stayed on well. I thought that was a big performance from Rosallion. That said, it was a fast run race. I think it broke the track record. So maybe Rosallion wasn't disadvantaged from being held up early on, and Unquestionable was up in the van from early, but it was still a big performance by Rosallion. That was on 7th in the last day. I think he did prove that he stayed while he didn't win. I think you can at least put it down to lack of a recent run as to why maybe he didn't go forward as strongly as Notable Speech did in the Guineas. Notable Speech had race fitness on his side. Hatem likewise finished 3rd. He had race fitness on his side. He won the Craven. And yeah, I think Marcus reading my notes. I was reading Marcus' notes. I think Richard Hannon could be a good race for him. I was trying to make the case that Hatem maybe might be each way value at 6 or 7 to 1, but when you come down to it, like, why is he going to reverse placings with Rosallion? the stable think Rosallion is a better horse. Sean Leavy's chosen to ride Rosallion. He rode Hatem in all his races before that, including the Craven before the Guineas. And Hatem had the benefit of a race course run before going to the Guineas, and Rosallion still beat him. So kind of maybe at the Curragh, but that's the point to argue. I think Rosallion, he's rock solid. He's an even money shot, but I think it's difficult to get away from him.
Yeah, we get the odds from Nicola shortly. Let's hear from Sean Leavy. He rides Rosallion, who, as Don said, you could even mark up his run maybe at Newmarket.
This lad definitely will have no problem over a mile. I don't think he'll stay much further than a mile, but he definitely stays.
How is he since Newmarket?
Look, he's very well. I think the only difference now you can see in him is that he has the benefit of a run under him.
You've no notable speech to worry about. I think obviously your stablemate's coming over, but you'd have to imagine he is the horse to beat on what looks like will be good or good firm ground at the Curragh at this stage.
Yeah, I think I heard the watering, which would suggest that it is good to firm and they're trying to keep it as safe as possible. If that is the ground you'd like, especially for Rosallion. Hatem, he can go on anything. I think it's right in thinking Hatem would be the one you'd be looking to beat on paper anyway, and from form we've seen recently in the English Guineas. And you could argue that Hatem would probably find improvement on a stiff track like the Curragh, you know?
Yeah, Hatem's a big one for Phoenix of Spain, the National Studs horse, and he looks a very promising stallion as well. I think if River Tiber were to win this, he could emerge as a very interesting stallion prospect himself. And I actually half think, Nicola, that the offer that you have here, because I feel River Tiber could be back tomorrow. There's definitely, if he stays, he definitely has a chance. And they have Unquestionable in the race as well, the master trainer. Here's Unquestionable, a bit of VT from him, obviously winning at the Breeders' Cup. And Nicola, that offer is going to be popular, but what is your betting on the race?
Yeah, look, the market's actually been pretty static here. Yesterday we pushed Rosallion out to even money, but he's come back in line and is now odds on again at 10 to 11. Deservedly so, I would say. You know, he's had one defeat as a juvenile. He put that behind him in October when he won at Group 1 at Longchamp, and then obviously, as you said, came second to Notable Speech, and he doesn't have to worry about him here. So I think he's going to improve on that. River Tiber is his nearest rival in there at 7 to 2. Obviously won the Coventry Stakes, then stepped up to Group 1 level thereafter. But as you all said, he has to prove his stamina here, and he hasn't been backed yet. Hatem was third in the 2000 Guineas, is 11 to 2. One that's sort of been nibbled at, but again, he's got ground to make up with Rosallion as well. You mentioned Unquestionable, who chased Rosallion home at Longchamp. He can improve in that. He's in there at 13 to 2. But there's plenty of question marks around, you know, some of these horses behind Rosallion, and I just think all the signs point towards a Richard Hannon victory here. He just looks rock solid at the front of the market.
And remember, if you're taking Ladbrokes 2-1 offer, a lot of you will have been taken there by the run of Mountain Bear when he was second to Unquestionable. Absolutely flashed home. He's bidding, I think, to provide no name ever with his first Classic winner, DP McDonough, in the plate for Aidan O'Brien. I have to say, I'm massively looking forward to the race. So many angles in it, but there are other races on the card as well. I'm going to be quite boring here and give you my nap, which is actually Rosallion. Very unlike me to be napping a horse at this sort of price, but Rosallion is my nap at 340. We're going to get your nap next, Mark.
I like Candleford for William Haggis in the R at 305. William, I think he's got a 25%, 26% strike rate in Ireland over the last 5 seasons. He really is effective when he brings over horse for black type races. Key to this guy is quick ground. He's going to get it. We're looking at the forecast. Rain that it hit, even very local areas of the Curragh didn't hit it this week. They've ultimately had the water, as Sean referred to there. I think the rain is going to come more on Saturday evening into Sunday. More of a chance of an ease then as we get into Sunday's car. But I think conditions are right up Candleford Street. He won when fresh as well when he bolted up in a Duke of Edinburgh Ride Ascot a couple of seasons ago. First start back, Ryan Moore, you know, not a lot to knock with him. I think he's got a very, very big chance in the RB Stakes at 305.
Beat that, Don.
Regional in the sprint in the Greenlands. Yeah, I just think for all the reasons I outlined earlier, it's significant he's coming over. He loved the ground. He proved at Haydock that he could get 6 furlongs well at that level, and he goes well fresh as well. So he's got the class. So I think he's a bigger price than he should be.
Made a very strong case from Nicola. Finally, your nap on day one.
I don't like playing it safe, but I'm like you, Johnny. I'm going to stick with Rosallion in the 2000 Guineas.
And Nicola's had a very interesting morning. Her twins have been active, asking her all sorts of questions that were not easy to answer and probably shouldn't be played out on this show, but we leave that to your imagination. Let's get to Sunday after the break. Yeah, I think we'll get on to Sunday now and leave the rest to your imagination. We're going to go to the Lanwades Stud Stakes. This is 2:35. Cracking card again. If you haven't been to the revamped Curragh, Sean Leavy's first visit actually since was revamped. Get there on Sunday or Saturday. It's just it's a really cracking race course. We'll start off with this Group 2 over the mile. And the first VT we're going to look at here is Rouge Millennium, finishing second at York. And Rouge Millennium will be ridden by one Dylan Brown McMonigal on her first start for Joseph O'Brien. Take us from here, Don.
Yes, Free Wind it runs out an impressive winner here. But Rogue Millennium, in fairness, she does battle on well, and she gets up to within half a length of Free Wind, and the pair of them keep on pulling nicely away from Poptronic there on the far side, Carl Burke's filly. But it's a good performance by Rogue Millennium. She's kept on well, and she moved on from that. Then she won the Windsor or the Duke of Cambridge next time at Royal Ascot, and then went on. She came over here, ran well in the Matron Stakes when she finished second behind Tahir. This is all when she was with Tom Clover. She was sold for quite a lot of money at the December sale and has joined Joseph O'Brien. So it's going to be fascinating to see her making her debut for Joseph O'Brien.
What do you like in the race?
I quite like Ocean Jewel at the prospective prices. I get the prices from Nicola now, I'm sure, but like she shaped really well last season when she won the Ballycora Stakes at Leopardstown. She was a good winner that day. Yeah, we have the VT of that. No, we do indeed. Yeah, and it's grand.
Go ahead, Don. Yeah,
so Real Appeal was second. He's enhanced that form since. He ran really well the other day. Carry the One was with Johnny Murtha. Then is now with Michael Bell. He won a handicap there off a high mark the other day. So that form worked out well. Ocean Jewel herself, she dropped. That was over 7 furlongs. Obviously the Ballyogan. She dropped down and tripped to 6 furlongs. Next time we're back to the Ballyogan. Yeah, look, she was in front from a little way out. Here's Real Appeal coming down the outside in the shamrock colours and Carry the One a wee bit further out. But you can see there she's travelled really well into her race. She's travelled well into the lead. And that turn of foot there, that to me, that's significant. I know they're kind of closing her down a wee bit close home, but they're never going to get to her, and they're good horses in behind. Musarraf is the other horse in there. So she's won that well. She was only a 3-year-old last year, so she's improving it. Like she was well beaten next time in the Ballyogan, but I thought just the way that 7 furlong trip looked like a good trip for her, and she could even go out and trip to a mile. She did run over a mile in the Matron Stakes, and she was only 8th in that race. She was about 7 lengths behind Rogue Millennium, but she was tracking Rogue Millennium through, and she got a wee bit hampered, just kind of squeezed out of it. And Gary Carter rode it that day. He had to take back, but she probably wouldn't have got ahead of Rogue Millennium, but I think she would have done a wee bit better than she did. And I just think there's more to come from her. And William McCreary has won this race with Opponent Plays a couple of years ago. He won it with Devonshire as well. So it's a race that I'm sure he's had in mind. His horses are in good form as well. And yeah, I just think there's more to come from her. And stepping up or going back over a mile, she's a half sister to Mother Earth, the Guineas winner and a pre-Rothschild winner, and another horse, Night Colours, who won a Group 2 race over a mile in Italy. So I still think that even though she's got 7 furlong pace and she ran over 6, and actually won her maiden over 5 as a juvenile, I still think that a mile should be within her range. So yeah, I just thought she was interesting at probably a wee bit of a price.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see Rogue Millennium does that stable start. Our last VT here is of You Send Me at the Curragh, finishing second. Another fascinating runner and a fascinating race, Mark Boylan.
Yeah, I think it's the Atazi Stakes, Johnny. To be honest, I didn't view it at the time as being an ultra strong piece of form. Grand filly, you'd love to have her, and I think she'll be competitive. Could be knocking on the door for more black type You Send Me. But my feeling would be similar to Don, but slightly different. I think Ocean Jewel is value, but I just don't think she's as good a filly as Rogue Millennium. The question is, though, is Rogue Millennium going to be at her best after a break? You could say similar with Ocean Jewel, but Rogue Millennium, when we were down in Joseph on Monday morning, he did mention that this season he feels he's taken a slightly different approach with his older horses. He's trained them to maybe come on a little bit more with runs and improve for later in the season. Maybe she'll be good enough to do it like that, but she's a big filly, weighs well over 500 kilos. I thought from looking at the horses down there, she's an absolute oil paint, and when she'd want to be for 1.65 million, they bought her for last year, but high quality form, second to Tahira. I don't think her peak form is anything that Ocean Jewel can match. But the angle I take instead is I go with Ocean Jewel, maybe betting without here if I was getting a bit of a price, and maybe see how short Rogue Millennium is when the market finalises. If she was plenty short, Ocean Jewel maybe without. But I am very, very much respectful that Rogue Millennium is a top filly in kind of mile race, I feel, this season. Maybe might even stretch to a mile and a quarter, as we saw there at York. But look, an interesting race. You send me here, solid run, just gets mowed down, but just feel this standard, it's going to be a better standard probably required to have to win this personally.
Yeah, we're all oil paintings on this show. Nicola, what is the betting here, and what do you like?
No, we haven't got anything up on this, Johnny, so you can bypass me on that one and go straight to the other two, if that's okay.
Well, actually, yeah, we keep with you so for the Tattersalls Gold Cup, because
Johnny, sorry, before you move races, that race that we just saw, that was Greg Arena getting up to beat Usemi in the Atazi. That's a candidate for ride of the season already for me, from Dylan Brown Monaga. I didn't think Greg Arena was going to run in this, but I think she could be a player at a big price. I know she's not the Joseph O'Brien selected. The Dylan Brown Monaga is obviously riding Rogue Millennium, but I thought Greg Arena, and maybe the ground will be a bit quick for her, but that was her first run for Joseph since arriving, and it was a real kid good gloves ride. Got her settled. She was stone last in the early part of the race, and he just got up to win by whatever it was, a head or a neck at the end. But I think Greg Arena is an interesting filly or an interesting mare, if not for Sunday on the ground, definitely for later in the season.
100%. The kid is absolutely mustard, I think it's fair to say. Over to Nicola, the Tattersalls Gold Cup. This is a cracker. The first VT we're going to look at here, Nicola, is August Rodin. Speaking to Aidan during the week, I wasn't entirely sure he was going to run with the potential of soft ground. That looks pretty much out of the question now. When he's good, he's very, very good. But when he's bad, he was actually good here, though.
Yeah, look, this is an all or nothing horse. We know that. He's going to be very popular. Aidan O'Brien is the most successful trainer in the history of the race. And August Rodin is the Derby and Irish Derby winner. He's the 10-11 favourite. He's a multiple Group 1 winner. And he blew the cobwebs off in the Dubai Shima Classic in March, although he never, as I said, this was more of a nothing performance than an all performance, and Aidan's, putting a line through that. So he looked to get the campaign back on track here. And as I said, he is 10-11. And then you've got Derby third, White Birch, who's won twice already this season, is in there 5-2. Elegant Man 6-1, and Lumiere Rock 8-1.
Nicola mentioned Elegant Man. Don, next horse we look at. I'm a massive fan of White Birch. We'll also see shortly. Elegant Man. I suppose the question mark with this fella is just ground on, and how turf will work out for him. He's very, very promising. I actually spoke to David Egan about him lately, and he was singing his praises.
Yeah, no, he like that. How is he going to handle the ground? How's he going to handle the surface? He's never run on turf, which is it's mad. All 4 runs have been on all weather, but no, he's good on all weather. Mikey Sheehy rode him this day. He's taken him to the nearest side at Dundalk, and Tyson Fury, who's just coming in behind there, is going to stay on to take second place. Dennis Hogan's horse, he's enhanced that form since he went out and he won next time off handicap rating of 99. Freescape had won a handicap in his previous run off a mark of 95. He won it by 4 lengths. So they're good horses in behind, and Elegant Man is just coming away from them and he's winning really impressively. He went to Newcastle next time for the all-weather championships, and he was really, I thought he did well to win because he was drawn out wide and sold 14. He was keen early on. David Egan kind of got him going forward, but he was
hard place to make the run at times as well.
Sorry,
hard place to make the run at times.
Yeah, no, it's a you don't really see it from the TV, but it's a kind of a stiff incline the whole way up to the line at Newcastle. But he did well, and he was a bit keen early on as well. But David Egan got him settled in front, and then dictated from there. He came over to the near side rail as well in the home straight, which seemed to be the place to be. So he had plenty in his favour, but at the same time, given how keen he was early, I thought he did well to win. But it's a question mark how he's going to handle the ground. I suppose good to firm turf should be as similar to all weather as there is on turf, I suppose. But he's a progressive horse. He's won 3 of his 4 races, and you can see him running a big race. But no, I'm with you, Johnny, on White Birch.
Well, let's look at White Birch, Don, winning at the Curragh the last day. I have to say I'm a big fan of this horse and delighted for the Murphys to have him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, they've managed him really well. He finished 3rd in the Derby last year on good ground or fast ground, good to firm ground. And here on much softer ground in the Moorsbridge Stakes, he's just coming away from Lord Massasus and Greenland. Greenland had led early on, Lord Massasus staying on to get the better village voice for the runner-up spot. But White Birch, he couldn't have done much more than he's done. He was ridden this day by Colin Keane as well. Has ridden him in his 2 races this season, including in the Derby. So Colin Keane back on board, big positive, obviously. And he's just improving now as a 4-year-old. He seems to handle all types of ground. This kind of extended 10 furlong trip looks like a good trip for him now while he gets a 1.5 miles. But yeah, I can see him taking another step forward now, and we know he's got race fitness on his side as well.
Yeah, very interesting. Colin Keane has picked up quite a ride actually in the Guineas. More of that anon. Before we get to that, Mark Boylan, my one concern about White Birch in the context of this race is if the ground were softer, it might slow others down.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think White Birch, you see him so effective on heavy and soft. You know, I'm not saying he can handle decent ground, but I think he can handle those testing conditions better than others can cope with it. And it'll very much swing balance away from Augusta Rodan. Like, really, this race, it revolves on which version of Augusta Rodan turns up. If the very best Augusta Rodan turns up, everything else is playing for second. But to me, he's really turning into kind of I don't know how you put it, an equine Marcus Rashford or some description. Like, he will score absolute worldies from outside the box when the ball comes to his feet. But if adversity comes and it's not going his way, it's hard to get him in play. You know, and when he's on his day, he's one of the best in the world in the position or the category that he's in. But when it's not going his way, it's very, very hard to watch. So, like, you know, he's got all the talent. We know the tools are there for him to do it. But am I going to be a taker at that type of price? I'm just going to have to sit and watch. I think Elegant Man is nearly the one. I feel he's the up-and-comer in the division, and I think he'll cope with ground whatever way it falls. Big, strong horse. But, you know, for me, it's so hard. Any race Augusta Rodan runs it at the moment, it nearly makes it a no-play race for me because you can't have confidence what version will turn up.
And I can't wait for you in the huddle on Sunday to say to Aidan O'Brien, Aidan, is it fair to say he is an equine Marcus Rashford? Right, let's get on to Paddy Twomey, who's he's better than Marcus Rashford, I think, Paddy, as a trainer. He has had an unbelievable run of it the last few years, and he's well represented in the Guineas. I met him last week.
Nervous going to Navan, and I don't usually be nervous going racing, and I didn't speak when I put the saddle on her, which is all telltale stuff if you know me. And she's here, and
you were
I was concerned. Yeah, I was concerned. I knew if there was a good horse like Mr. Wells filly that we may well get beaten, but you know, I didn't mind losing the battle if we win the war ultimately. And it was the first time that she'd come off the bridle in a race. She'd won her previous 2 races without coming off the bridle. And it was the first time she'd the battle, and I was very happy with her. I just probably felt that on the day against the class filly that, you know, 10 furlongs just stretched her reserves. But, you know, maybe that's a good thing. It'll leave her in, I think, perfect shape for the Irish Guineas there in a couple of weeks' time.
What'd she like to train?
Very straightforward. She came from the 2-year-old sales, you know, she breezed well and she came well recommended, and Mark McStay Avenue Bloodstock bought her. And she didn't put a foot wrong. She got into the system here. Counted her for 6 weeks, gave her a couple of skips and thought this is not too bad, and we went to the races and she won. You know, it kind of happened very, very naturally. She had talent, and you know, we didn't look too hard, and didn't run her back. She was a big filly. She's still a big-bodied filly, which is why I wanted to space out her races this year. And she was ready to start in this, and again, you know, putting her in against colts in a winner's race, not a simple thing to do for a filly, but she did it well. And as I say, Navan fitted in well in her training schedule, I thought, and I was worried about the trip, but I think back at a mile in the Irish Guineas, I'd be hoping that was a good prep run for her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a better prep for me if I actually introduced it. He was going to talk about Purple Lily there, who was just slightly outstayed at Navan. Billy Lee, I feel Billy Lee had a tough choice here, Nicola, and I don't know if the betting kind of corresponds with that, because basically Lilac Rolla and Purple Lily, they look like they'll probably be sort of similar odds. What are the odds?
You're dead right. They're both 10-1. So yeah, that's how it's looking at the minute. Opera Singer is the favourite at 2-1. Again, O'Brien's got an excellent record here, and he has the leading filly in the race. And yeah, really after winning in France on the final start of her juvenile campaign, she kind of really started catching the attention. So she's the one they all have to beat. Then you have got Vespertallo in there at 9-2, and Fallen Angel, I think for me, is the interesting one for Carl Burke after, you know, only came 8th in this race across the water. Things obviously didn't go to plan that day, but she definitely remains one to keep on the short list. She ran an absolute cracker at the Curragh last year, winning by over 7 lengths in the Moy Glare, and for me, that's kind of one of the standout kind of points in this race, and kind of just looking away from the favourite would be one I'd be looking at.
What price is that at?
Which one?
Azada.
Azada is in there at 14-1.
A very, very interesting horse. We're going to have a look at some VT here of the likely favourite in the race, likely SP favourite mark, Opera Singer. Just a little bit of a concern that, this is her comeback.
Yeah, I'd echo the sentiments, Johnny. Best of these at 2, really, really high class form. Never better than in her last round of the season. 5 winner on Arc Day. Really, really impressive. And again, can cope with a variety of grounds. You get the feeling as well. She's going on yielding soft at Leopardstown. She's going on good ground. Versatile, always seems to hit the line strongly. This was a fair performance as well at the Curragh. You'd have no concerns in that regard, but the concern is certainly that she hasn't been seen yet. She missed the Guineas with a little hold up, I believe. I stand correct if I'm wrong, but you'd imagine to get back here, given it's not a long time since the Guineas, we might get to see peak version of her. And I'm willing to take her on. And I think you mentioned here the Billy Lee jockey book, and I think that's really interesting because Vespertilio is rated 113. You'd imagine Billy would have had the choice to ride her. Purple Lily is 103, and even Elilik Rolla is a pound ahead of her. So he's actually, of the 3, you could imagine maybe Billy Lee had the choice to ride. He's gone with the lowest one officially on handicap ratings. I actually think Vespertilio is a really, really smart filly and cracking run last time in the French Guineas. But it's so open, and that does dent my confidence slightly. Maybe the Bill has gone elsewhere. As Paddy touched on the run at Navan with Purple Lily, back to a mile, not going to be any concern. And her last season, she looked really, really smart. I mean, you'd love how she started the campaign. I'm not giving up on her, but it's a little bit of that rider booking situation where we're dealing so short, I suppose, in the timeline when we're coming on here and getting decks. Slightly surprised by that, but I still think Vespertilio, hands at ease in the ground, and with that rain coming, might just help bring her into a bit more. She didn't do a whole lot wrong, wasn't beaten far in the French Guineas. I'd nearly take a flyer on her, but it's such an open race. There's so many cases to be made. Skelet even is a decent filly I'd rate for Rafe Beckett, first time back this season. Maybe he'll need it, but just there's enough depth there and enough race fit ones, I feel, that Opera Singer is probably a vulnerable favourite.
Last word to you on this, Don, and we'll have a look at Fallen Angel. As Nicola said, disappointed more or less at Newmarket, but would you be willing to forgive her? What's her take in the race?
I think you can, Johnny, because it was a race in which they went fast early on. The main protagonist came from the rear. If you're having a look at it here, like Fallen Angel, she does. That's the way she likes to go forward. The winner, Almalka, is in the yellow colours. The Sheikh Ahmed colours towards the right. Porta Fortuna, Donnacha O'Brien's filly, she's just moving into it there. Ramatuel actually did well because she was prominent from early, and she's done well to keep on as well as she did. Tamfano was well back, had to check, obviously, had to come on the near side, and she's finished off her race well. And Ylang in the Mrs. Wagner colours on the far side. So I think you can give Fallen Angel a pass if you want for that race. It was the first run of the season, so again we're back to not knowing how to progress from 2 to 3 if you're giving her a reason for that defeat. But look, as Nicola said, her run in the Moydre was a really good run. She was prominent from early that day, and Vespertilio, it did look like she was coming up to get the better of her, but she seemed to pick up again and went to the line strongly. So I think she's deserving of another chance, and you can allow her a Guineas run if you want. Opera Singer, she sets the standard for sure. Like her pre-Marcel Boussac run, that was a phenomenal run, what she did and the way she came clear. The second and third have both been beaten since, but the fourth was on a listed race at Sean T there last week. So the form, I suppose, has been, at least it's got some kind of solidity to it. And look, it was a Group 1 race as well. And her run in the Newton Anerstud Stakes that we saw, that was a massive run, and Brilliant, who was second. She came out and won the Park Express Stakes this season. So look, she's the right favourite. But as Mark said, I think Aidan did say in the early part of the season that she wasn't going to make the Guineas. So conclude from that probably some reason why, as in she just wasn't ready to get there. But she's back now, so she's fascinating. And I take what Mark's saying about Vespertilio. She's a lovely filly. She wasn't beaten far in the French Guineas. That was only 2 weeks ago. Not sure if it's a quick enough turnaround, but be interesting to see how she goes. But I do like Purple Lily, and I kept on refreshing my screen to see who Billy Lee was riding. So I was delighted to see him on her, because he would definitely obviously have the choice of the 2 Paddy Twomey horses and Vespertilio as well. So look, for all the reasons that were outlined earlier on, she was really impressed with winning at Naas. I think you can say that it was stamina. It was interesting that Paddy was telling you, Johnny, that he was a wee bit concerned going into the race that her stamina might not hold out over 10 furlongs in the Salsabo Stakes. And look, her dam went over an extended mile, and her dam's a half sister to Lady's Secret, who was a mile and a half horse, but she's She's by Calix, so lots of pace there. And I think the drop back down and trip is going to suit her. This is her winning at Leopardstown. Like the horse she's beaten in the second place, Portland, there in the favourite colours on the far side. He's rated 108. And Chicago critic Johnny Murtha's horse in the Smurfit colours finishing third. He went and won a handicap there off a relatively high mark the other day. So that's really strong form in the way she did it. That was over a mile on heavy ground. So how she's going to cope? I thought she coped with the better ground at Navan the last day well, for all that she probably didn't just fully get home over 10 furlongs. And yeah, I think she can take a step forward again. I think she should be fine on the ground, step back and trip and stoot. Paddy Twomey's horses are in rocking form already this season. And the fact that Billy has chosen the rider is a massive positive in my book.
Yeah, Paddy actually asked me what I thought Billy would ride, and I did pick her, but I wouldn't say it was the easiest choice in the world. A couple of comments coming in before we get the naps. Frankel forever. Keep the staking plan simple for the Curragh tomorrow. Camille Pizarro, Art Power and Rosallion. I'm sure a lot will agree with that. And another one, what's the issue with Auguste Rodin, mental or physical? What do you guys think? That is a very good question, and something I'm sure that Aidan O'Brien might be asked on Sunday if he wins or if he finishes down the field. Who knows with Auguste Rodin? Who knows with my naps this weekend? But I'm going to go with Zainab in the 2 o'clock. I'm a big fan of the Phoenix of Spain as a sire, and Zainab, I don't think this horse is badly handicapped here. And the race was actually poorly enough subscribed. Let's get Don's nap for the weekend.
Purple Lily, for the weekend, or for Sunday?
Yeah.
Purple Lily for all the reasons just outlined there, yeah.
Nicola.
I am going to put a line through Fallen Angels, Guineas performance, and kind of focus back on that performance in the Moyglare. So Fallen Angel for me.
You're a bit of a fallen angel yourself, Mark Boylan. What is an app Sunday?
Jeez, I've been called different things, Johnny. It's the first time I've been called that. I like Spoken Truth in the Gala News for Dermot Wells. Thought he created a huge impression when he won at Cork, first time up this season. And a full brother to Homeless Songs, who was one of the most impressive Irish 1,000 Guineas winners I think I've seen. He stays 10 furlongs, no problem. I'd say this fella, though, by Frankel, he's got a big future for Dermot Wells. Spoken Truth in the 4:15 on Sunday.
Massive fan of that horse myself. Listen, thanks to everyone, to Nicola, to Donn and to Mark. I hope you've enjoyed the show and the inputs from Sean Leavy and Paddy Twomey. And real sincere thanks to Ladbrokes for sponsoring. Keep an eye out for that special on Aidan O'Brien winning the Guineas. And do remember to gamble responsibly. It's a very busy weekend across in Ireland and Britain. Brilliant action. Gamble responsibly goes without saying. And thank you very much for listening and watching On The Wire.
On The Wire, in association with Ladbrokes.